All right. Hey, friends, how's it going? Happy Thursday or Friday if you're in the future. Is Australia, is it Friday already? I can't remember. Time zones, am I right? Anyways, welcome back to Nikki T Live. Doing another co-working session slash working on OpenSauced StarSearch. Working on the UI, which is what I've been focusing on. My coworker John has been working on the back end of things, integrating with the LLMs and all that secret sauce. Yeah, so I guess kind of to get folks up to speed, let me switch to coding view before I forget, because I do forget that a lot, and then I ramble on for like 2 minutes until somebody says we can't see what you're looking at. So okay, cool. Okay, do I have the app running? Okay, yes I do. Okay. No, I'm not building Twitter. Let's go to my localhost. Is my localhost not running? Oh, it is not. There we go. Cool, let's get this bad boy up. Also, just wanted to give a shout out to Nick, not me, another Nick. Let me go get their handle because I don't know it offhand. Uh, give a shout out to Nick Lemoncito. Nick, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Um, Feel free to go give a follow to Nick over on X or wherever else you want to. Um, and I'll just drop that in the chat. So I've been having some coffee chats with Nick. He's hey Jay, and hey bro, what's up? Yeah, I need you to say, yo, bro, nobody's watching. Giant, that made me laugh yesterday. Anyways, yeah, just want to give a shout out to Nick here, Nick Lemoncito. Yeah, he's new to the industry and he's looking for his next role. And we've been having some coffee chats, and he's getting into open source and yeah, he's just looking for some opportunities. Any advice you have for him, feel free to drop him a DM. Anyways, had a chat with him literally just before we went streaming. Anyways, just wanted to mention that. Let me go drop that over on the Twitters too. And let's close that. Okay, cool. What about you, Giant? How you doing today, my man? Okay, cool, cool. Let's see here. Where was I going on the Twitters? Multi-streaming is always interesting. It's not super complicated with a service, but it's just you can't respond to the chat everywhere using the service. I'm using Restream. But anyways, we are working on OpenSauce as always, like I mentioned. So give that a check if you want to see what we're cooking. And I'll just drop that over on Twitter too. Okay, cool. So yeah, so what are we working on, or what am I working on, I should say specifically? So we've got this feature StarSearch. There is a wait list. I'm gonna drop the wait list link. Or actually, you know what? I'll drop the tweet. You know, give it a retweet. Show us some love. Where is it? Here. I've got it pinned on my profile, but let's copy that. Boom. Yeah, if you're interested in joining the waitlist, just head on over to that tweet. Shameless plug, but you know, that's what you got to do. Cool. Feel free to give it a retweet. Um, all right. Okay, let's get back to it. So what is Star Search? Well, if I go to uh, the tweet here. So Star Search is what we're calling Copilot, but for Git history. So what's that look like? So we could say, like, for example, identify key contributors to the TypeScript ecosystem, and it's going to go find some people. Don't mind the markdown formatting looking a little weird sometimes. That's something I'm currently going to be looking at this afternoon with my coworker John. But you can see it gets some information. We have these like suggested prompts, but we can also do, you know, what is the lotto factor of, let's say, Facebook React. And this is the part I've been working on. Well, I've been working on this whole UI, but um, we're able to pull in components that can help with this. And this is zoomed in quite a bit, but if I bring it back to 100 for a second here, so it does fit on the screen. But I'll zoom back in just because most people probably won't be able to see it. But essentially, we've got text responses, but we're able to enrich the UI by pulling in components. So that's kind of what the current PR I have is doing. And yeah, essentially I got some to-dos for it still. So let's go to the GitHub repo, or not repo, sorry, my pull request. Excuse me. So I have some to-dos, and this is what I'm working on for anybody interested. That's the actual PR, and let's dial this down again. So that's a PR if you want to check it out. And did I miss your comments, Giant? Hey, bro. Yeah, there we go. I was waiting for that, bro. Yeah, good to see him, Giant. What uh, what are you working on, Giant? Or are you or what are you up to in terms of web dev or just dev in general? Just curious. Anyways, so I got some to-dos here. So add some more comments to the code. Sort out the markdown issues with my coworker John. That I'll be doing later when he frees up. He's given a talk for Gun.io, Taylor Desson's company, or not Taylor's company, but the company that Taylor works for. So we'll be doing that, I think, just after lunchtime, maybe my time. But let's go ahead and look at. Let's close everything. No, I don't want to save that. Okay, so we got some to-dos in here, so that's what we're going to focus on. So I guess I can kind of explain here what's happening. Let's get some real estate here. So essentially when we get these responses coming in, it comes in this format. So it's a readable stream that comes in. So we hit our API here, and basically assuming that's successful, so assuming we don't end up in here, we basically get this readable stream, and we get the reader. Feel free if folks have never used readable streams. Here we go. Just pop this in. Boom, and pop that over on the Twitter sphere as well. So essentially the information comes in, and it's all text. And so the format we get it in is we get this event, which is it can be a type, it can be of type function call, or it can be of type content. And then there's an ID. This is just coming from the streaming API. I guess this is to indicate the chunk number potentially. I never use this, so it's ignored. And then essentially we have data. Hey, what's up, Violated Sign? Good to see you, my man. And then we have this data coming in, and then if it's a function call, this means I need to render a component. So essentially, like in this example, I'm showing the lottery factor. So that's when it's a function call. If it's just an event of type content, that's going to be textual like this. And again, the markdown rendering to HTML is a little wonky at the moment, but like I mentioned, I'm sorting that out with my coworker John, because we need to test it on both sides. There's the front end aspect of things, but there's also what what's being returned from the API. So we got to narrow it down to see where where it's breaking down. Um, so yeah, so those are the two types of kind of like chunks of data that can come in: content or a function call, which means we need to embed a widget of a particular thing. So here, this is not the name of the component. This is just the LLM. The LLM. It's one of the tools. So it says that I know I need to render this lotto factor. So what I do is, and I'll show it in a minute, is when that comes in, I know I need to render the lotto factor, lottery factor component here. And the arguments that come in here, this is all string right now, but this gets converted to JSON, and I treat this as the props of the component. And yeah, so essentially we could even go through this to show this maybe, but let's see here. Yes. So for example, even talking through the code, we've got enough comments in here now, I think. So if it starts, because this comes in as literally like event function call, new line, ID :1, new line, then data, that chunk of data, new line, etc., etc. So there's things we can ignore. So we're basically all the all the data that comes in on the current chunk of readable stream, we split it on a new line character, and we get these chunks for it, and we loop through those chunks. And so like if I see, okay, you know, it might be good to actually just go through this. So I'm gonna open up the debugger. Let's do this. I'm gonna put the debugger on the side just because it'll work better for just showing things. Okay. Okay, yeah, we can leave that there. Let's just refresh. And I'm gonna zoom in because obviously this is super tiny. Close others. Okay, boom, 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 boom. The UI is gonna be super massive, but not too concerned about that. We want to look for ID :, boom, boom. Okay, yeah, so this is where we want to start. So we can do there, we can do here. Yeah, okay. That's good. So, all right. So I'm gonna say, what is the lotto factor for Kubernetes? And we should hit a breakpoint. Okay, this we can ignore for now. I'll get to that later. Boom. Okay, so we've gotten the response, and we've got our first value here. So like, let's see here, values undefined. Why is everything undefined? It's not undefined. Oh yeah, maybe the first one is. Okay, let's let this run. Okay, still undefined. let's Okay, I think it's the editor not showing it properly. Let's do this. Let's see. What did I do? I think slowing it down messed things up with the debugger. Let's try this again. I think this is just a debugging issue. That's the problem. Okay, let's click there. I am on localhost, just making sure, because I was doing this the other day, and I was like, why is it not hitting the debugger? Oh yeah, or why is my code not changing? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking at a deploy preview, or I'm looking at production. What is the lotto factor for, let's do React. Okay, now I'm really curious, why is it not, I think this is a unrelated, well, somewhat related, but this code is transpiled or compiled from TypeScript to, oh, that was a good sneeze. This code is compiled from TypeScript to JavaScript, so this is actually a source map. Like, this is the actual code we wrote, but under the hood there's generated JS for this, and I have a feeling the editor, there's a problem with the mapping between the types. Okay, showing up here. I'm getting values now. Okay, so essentially, okay, now we have values. Well, that's a lot in there. Value dot split. Okay, so here's the value. I don't know why it wasn't showing up before, but you can see this chunk of text comes in, and it's literally all text. So it's event function call new line ID colon one new line etc etc. You get the idea. Now you can see here the chunks at the bottom. All these content ones. You see it's like it's not necessarily a full sentence in each chunk. It's like we're literally getting pieces as we go along, and so those we're gonna have to group together. Anything that's content for an event, they all get grouped together until you hit another function call, or if you never do, it's just all grouped content. And like I was saying, if it starts with a V, and let's put a watch in here. Okay, plus V. Okay, so we can see, hopefully that's zoomed in enough, but I'll try one more. I'm gonna basically, we don't really care about the UI right now. I just want to show what's going on here. So essentially, we're checking what's the value. Okay, it's empty. That's different, but like here, let's put here if it's an event or if it's data. Okay. So let's see here. So this one, it's literally nothing. It's an empty string, which could happen. Um, okay, now we're into TSLib code. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let's just let it run. Okay, this is all stuff I didn't want to be looking at. Okay, so let's look here now. We've got a V and it starts with an event. So it's a function call. So we're getting the function type, sorry, the event type here. So I'm gonna just step through here, and we know that the event type is a function call. So again, this is all string manipulation, and I'll be back in 1 sec. My nose is running. Looks like that good sneeze opened the taps or something. Anyways, so we've got this event out of the text, and it's type function call. So this signals to me we've set the event type. So now when we come in again and we get the data, I'm expecting this to be a component that will render, which will be the lottery factor. I'm gonna put a breakpoint down here too. So okay, so we've set the event type, and this will change once they go through the text. Like we're gonna get data next, and then the next event is gonna happen, and we're gonna figure out what type it is. And again, this is all just reading through text, but I'm gonna run this again, and then ignore this thing. This is just something in the transpilation. Okay, it's an ID. Okay. Um, okay, so we've got the data here. So let's take a peek here. So, okay, so you can see here the data. So we know it's data. We know that the event type, if we hover over this, it's a function call. So we know that this data is actually not markdown. It's serialized right now, but we're going to convert this to a JavaScript object. So this is JSON, and you can read through the notes here. We're just got a regex here, which is basically just pulling out the textual value after the data colon with a space. Okay, we're gonna come here. Okay, so let's just run this. I think there's something going on with things just being wonky here, but okay, let's get back to here. Okay, I think it's just a debugging thing. Okay, so event type. Okay, it skipped my content one. Uh, okay, let's see here. I have a feeling it's just because of the way it's debugging, but let's get it so we know when it's a function call that we're gonna have to parse that JSON from the string, and that's what's happening here. So I'm gonna rerun this, or maybe this will hit this at some point. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna rerun the question again. What is the lotto factor of the Yeah, for React. Let's clear this. Again, don't mind the UI right now. I'll squeeze it over a little bit, but okay. All right. So I think it was just a debugging thing. Okay, so we've got this probably related to the readable stream and me pausing for so long, maybe. Anyways, so we know it's a type function call, so we know that we're going to render a component. So we know that the data, which if we look here, the data is this JSON here. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to render a component. I need the JSON for it. So let's get that. And then in here, we've got arguments. Oh, let me hover over that again. Arguments, and we got the name render lotto factor. And this is just some ugly TypeScript because you can't strongly type JSON. There is the TS reset from Matt Pocock, which we could use maybe. But anyways, the arguments are still string at the moment. So I need to actually convert that to an object as well. So let's look at this whole thing now. So JSON content at this point it's the name is render lotto factor, and I have my props that are going to be for that component that's going to render. So it's a repo name, repository name, and that's good for that. So now the next thing we need to do is I made something called a component registry. It sounds fancier than it is. So essentially, we've got the name here, render lotto factor, and I'm going to come in here, and this is just a function that is all it's doing is it's using a JavaScript map here. The component registry is up top here. So you can see here, component registry is literally just a map, and the key is a string, and the value is a function. Now, I'll explain why that's a function in a second, and I need to type that better still, but okay, so we're here, and let's put the breakpoint in here. Okay, so the component registry is the map like I was saying, and we see, does it have a name lotto factor? Okay, it already does. I think this already ran, but let's uh let's go back maybe. Hold on a sec. Call stack. Yeah, there's some weird error from me debugging, I think, but let's go to here and restart. Okay, so let's come here, and I'm just gonna change the name temporarily. I just name equals yo or whatever. Okay, it's not gonna hit it. Okay, so now we're gonna say the name. I'm gonna put it back to what it actually was. Equals. This is not something I would normally need to do. This is just because I think by debugging for so long, I've caused some weird effect in here. Render lotto factor. Okay. Name render. Okay. So what's going to happen here now is, of course, I've waited too long. I'm going to have to refresh this. I'm going to put a breakpoint here and here. Okay. Let's try this again. Hey, how's it going, Learner0418? Good to see you. Yeah, again, I think this is just because I've been like holding the debugger too long and this readable stream's coming in. I think that's all it is. But so let's let this play out. I'm gonna restart it. But you see there, we got the lottery factor in there. But I want to show how that actually loads up. So let's start over. Okay, so we've got the JSON content. So like I said, we parsed it and we create a JavaScript object, and we're gonna go update this component registry. So the component shouldn't be in there yet. Of course it is. Oh yeah, no it is. I gotta refresh the page, that's why. Okay, one sec. We'll get it. And again, this is just like me running the debugger causing weird effects. It's not the actual program that's going wonky. Okay, so does it have the render lotto factor component in the registry? It doesn't. So I'm gonna see here now. Okay, so if I, damn it, why you keep coming into transpiled code? Okay, here, let's just let this run. Okay, So essentially what happens here is, sorry, just checking the comments. Okay. So essentially, one thing we want to do is like, because we're going to end up having like a potentially a large number of widgets at some point that we can surface in StarSearch. But if I were to say like import like 100 widgets into a page, the JavaScript bundle for that is going to be massive. So what I'm using is I'm using dynamic imports, and this allows me to only load a component when I need it, and that's what this is here. Dynamic imports have been in the platform for quite a while. Um, I'm able to reference the actual import name here because the bundler under the hood is handling this because I can't remember. I don't think we're using SWC at the moment, but basically Webpack or SWC, we're using Next.js here. This is what they use to bundle under the hood. It's going to know like, okay, they set a dynamic import to this particular string. This is actually this transpiled bundle. So basically, the StarSearch page is still going to remain relatively small. And then we create this registry. Like I said, it's just it sounds fancier than it is. It's just a JavaScript map, and I have a name, which is the key render lotto factor. And when I actually need this, I go to dynamically import the associated component, and then I store that in the registry. And so like while you're on the page, we load up this lottery factor widget, the the actual function, like the JSX that becomes the function to actually render that component, not the rendered component. And so now if I ask about lotto factor again, even though the page is already rendered one, it's going to go, oh, I'm already in the registry. I don't need to go and dynamically import it again. So it stays there, which is nice. And okay, now the last part, and again, this might blow up because I've been holding the debugger too long here, but I'm going to show you the rendering part now. So, okay, it came into here. So this is the, I think, interesting part. So I'm rendering a StarSearch component. So, which is the widget. We've got the widget definition. So we know it's the render lotto factor. The arguments, the repo name is Facebook React. I do have to sort out this error, but TypeScript error, but I'll do that eventually. So the interesting thing here is I'm getting that component from the registry. So if I hover over this, you're gonna say it's gonna see show that it's actually a function. Yeah, it's a function. This is actually like so that's the React component right there now. And a couple interesting things here. When you render React components, they always have to be uppercase. Like uh, the first letter has to be uppercase. So I normally don't name components. Variables with uppercase. But in this particular case, I need to because that's what React is expecting. So I've basically, this here just says, go get me some random component. So like, I don't have to explicitly name this like lottery factory widget. That's what this is here. And this allows me to just look in that registry and then I can just get whatever component. And from here, I'm using destructuring here. Basically, widget definition.arguments is the props for this component, and it's different based on what shows up for the component. So like in our case, like I said, it's just a repo name, and it's expecting Facebook/React as the value for that. And then this actually renders the component. Now, these are some of the to-dos I have to do. So like I need to put some logging the sentry in here. So because we're rendering the UI. Oh, thanks, violated sign. Yeah, there's a couple things here like um, the map makes a lot of sense because well, a map just made sense. I could have used a regular object, but I think maps perform better. And then again, we want this generic rendering because I don't know what they're gonna actually load because it depends on what the LLM response returns, right? So that's why this is generic here. And right now, like, because the LLM does return other types to actually render, but I don't support them yet in the front end, so I just ignore them. And the way that gets ignored, I'll show you in a sec. But and essentially, so this will render that component now. And if it errors out, um, I'm just returning null for the component. And the reason for that is we're still getting valuable textual information when people ask a question. I think it would just cause noise if I actually rendered a component that said unable to render the lottery factor widget component or something, you know. Okay, as a dev, I might be like, okay, that's good to know. But as somebody just using the product, it's just noise to me. If the component is able to render, it's a value add. If it doesn't, we just hide it like silently. But I'm gonna log it to Sentry because this helps us like internally to know, okay, this particular component didn't run. This is what it was using for like the widget definition. Why did it not work? And then I can sync up with like my coworker John. We can figure out like, well, what was the LLM response? Oh, it returned some broken JSON, and that's why this went boom or something, you know? So there's that. Um, and then let's go to where this happens. So the other check here is, so basically if the message content is of type string, which I mentioned, like you'll see up here on the left, it's paused, but if it's a string, I just render it in the markdown, and the markdown component actually just does what it needs to do. I've got markdown, convert it to HTML. Otherwise, I know, and this is basically, you know, I know, okay, it's not a string, so it's got to be a dynamic component that I'm going to render in a widget. And then that's what happens here. And where was that check to? Oh, yeah. So the check to see here. Okay. So we have like these separate chat boxes, and let me let it run. It's okay. So let's say this particular component didn't work. Um, essentially, or no, the not working part's one thing, but let's say um, it's not of type string, the current chat box I want to render. I know it's the dynamic widget coming in, but if that particular widget isn't registered in the component registry, I'm just returning null. And this is what I was getting back to. Uh, yeah, the destructuring is one of my favorite things of JavaScript. It's a nice value add. I think it came from Ruby. I'm not positive about that. Could double check that. Actually, I'm actually curious now. I'm pretty sure it's from Ruby. Ruby destructure. Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Okay, destructuring comes from Ruby, I believe. It's a little different, the syntax, but okay. Yeah. Um, destructuring in Ruby. Oh, that's my old coworker, Ridwana. Destructuring. I'm just trying to see how long it's been around. Okay, what's going on over here? Oh, that's somebody just commenting on my post. Check that later. Okay, I'm pretty sure it did come from Ruby. Yeah, yeah. The Ruby. I've done a bit of Ruby because when I worked at Dev2, it's a Rails monolith, but I was focused mainly on the front end. We were using Preact and like Webpacker and some bespoke stuff, but I had to do a bit of Ruby. You know, uh, wasn't too bad. It's just it wasn't my day to day kind of thing. So yeah, so in a nutshell, that's how I'm able to render these dynamic widgets that come in. And so like let's see here. For example, um, there's one I think what is it? I'm trying to see if there's an example of where it doesn't do it. So let's do hold on a sec. Render. Let's come back up here. Okay. I'm gonna just put a breakpoint there, and I'm gonna clear this, and uh, yeah, who's making pull requests? I'm gonna use this can question prompt, sorry. Where are people making pull requests in Vercel Turbo about CSS modules? This is gonna run, I think it's gonna hit this breakpoint at some point. Excuse me, update component registry. Okay, yeah, so here's this component that I don't support yet. So search repos by name. And so basically what happens is, okay, it's not in there. Okay, but now the only thing that's not magical here is basically a switch case. So like I need to just say which ones I need to import and stuff. You can't use like a magic string here as far as I know. I should try that, but the compiler needs to know at build time like what is the literal path here, because otherwise I don't think it'll work. I could be wrong about that though. So okay, so we're saying like, okay, there's this render search by PR's repo name, and okay, so we come in the switch case, it doesn't find it obviously, and I don't know why it keeps coming to the TS lib here. That's just debugging through code. Render smash that like button. Hey, how's it going, John? So that's my coworker John, who's been working on a lot of the LLM stuff and the AI aspect of this. So like I was saying, so I'm updating this component registry, but this, okay, we hit it again. But basically that one there, render search PRs, it doesn't exist, so I just ignore it. So if I just let this run now, let me just disable this whole registry thing. Okay, so you're gonna see here now, when I'm rendering the chat box, the message that's coming in, it's it's a it's uh it's expecting a widget to render here, but it's saying the search by repos, search PRs by repo name, and here's the JSON for it, which, sorry, the props. But the thing is, it's not in the component registry, so I'm just going to ignore it. If you're curious about LLMs and all that stuff, I'm going to just drop a blog post for you. So OpenSauced. And actually, my coworker John is going to be on a podcast talking about this too. But I highly encourage you to check out this post, violated sign, and I'll go drop it over on Twitter as well. That will, it doesn't, this goes how we, this, like as the title says, this is more how we save money and stuff on it. But there also is another thing, which is, I think you might be interested in. Let's go here. Yeah, I think check out this post. Okay, it does go deep. I haven't read the whole blog post yet. I started it. I got occupied. Check out this link too on LinkedIn. Violated sign. John's gonna be speaking on how he built our huge scale AI services. I'll drop that over on the Twitters too. Even though John's talked to me about this stuff a lot, I mean, he talks with the team a lot. I think I'm honestly just gonna go to this as well, the Luma, because it'll just be. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cool. So yeah, so like I was saying, so this registry here, search PRs by repo name doesn't exist, so it's just not gonna do anything. But let's do this. I can show you how quickly like we can add stuff now. So let's put a breakpoint here to when we go to render a StarSearch component, and I'm gonna modify the code temporarily. Yeah, it's basically just duct tape, YOLO, and please return me something useful. Violated site. No, I'm joking. It's John's put a lot of great work into it. It's honestly, I'm very impressed with the work John's done on this. Okay, so like I said, we don't have that search PRs. What was it? I got to get the name again. Let me just put a breakpoint. let's do, yeah, okay, boom. Let's just clear this, and yeah, this is the one I want again. It's gonna hit here. Okay, I just wanted to get the name. Uh, okay, search repos by name. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how easily it is to add a widget now. Like, we're not gonna actually include this in production right now, but I just kind of want to show you, like, this is what I would do if I needed to add a new one. So render lotto factor. So here, then I'm just going to do case, and it's going to be called search by repos name. And I'm just going to say component, you know what? I'm just going to say component equals, and I'm not even going to do a dynamic import because I don't need to build out a whole thing here, but let's just do this. And let's do name. Let's do class name equals, let's do grid gap 4, and then we'll do span. Like, if I was gonna actually show like a component where we list the actual repos, uh, okay, violated sign saying John Codes, my entire professional career has been one insta. Well, I know it can be done before, but it can be done, but I'll have to figure it out exactly how after another LO. Yeah, no, totally. Okay, so like I'm gonna create this new component. It's not a dynamic import, but um, I don't know the component registry. Yeah, so, and you know what? Actually, this has to be a component. So this will be, let's do this. Props. And this is going to return that. And I'm just going to say any, just because I don't care right now. And basically, I'm going to do just a pre and a code. Exactly, this is what I wanted. And so this is going to render that particular component. And now what I'm expecting to see, I'm going to save this. Okay. Yeah, let's let that go, and let's come down to the render again. Okay, let's let this go. Okay, let's clear things here. Okay, I'm gonna ask that same question again. And if I did things correctly, this should work. We'll see. Or maybe not. Who are the people making... Did I do it wrong? Hold on a sec. Again, this is just on the fly, but where's my registry? Component registry. Okay. I clearly did something wrong. Let's do that again. Okay. Oh, call request pull agent. Okay. That's a different one. Okay, let's add that in there too, I guess. Let's see here. Case. Again, I'm just doing stuff on the fly here, but I just kind of want to demonstrate that we can probably get something to render. This would be like an actual component eventually, but so let's do this again. Okay, and all right, let's, come on. It keeps giving me a different one, or what's going on? Let's try one more time. Okay, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Okay, so we've got this call request pull agent, which I haven't implemented, but this is just to show you that, like, so we've got this new function that we can render, and I'm just gonna render something now, and okay, and so let me close the debugger now. So you can see here, this is obviously not, this is an embedded widget now. It's not showing anything fancy, but basically it said, okay, we've got a call pull request agent, and this is the prompt. So like in this case, it makes sense to skip it. But that other one about the PRs, you know, again, it just shows you that you have this switch case, then you could dynamically import things. So, anyways, just wanted to kind of demo that. Like this is what I would do if John basically said, okay, we've got this new thing now that says show me this particular graph, and I'd be like, okay, what's the name of the for the event function call? What's the name? Okay, it's called I don't know, show contributor graph. Okay, then I'm gonna go dynamically import a contributor graph. Again, this was just an example, but that's, I don't want to use the word easy, but it's not a big lift basically to just start pulling in all these new widgets. So just wanted to kind of show that. Um, all right. Oh, thanks, violated sign. Yeah, I think dynamic imports are really great for this because again, it gets back to what I was saying. Like, let's say like at some point, StarSearch has like 100 embeddable widgets that can, based on certain prompts. There's no way that I want to import those all at build time because what's going to happen is you're going to end up with this massive page and the page will probably take a lot longer to load. Okay, sure, maybe if you're on a super fast connection, like I got gigabit internet, but it's a terrible experience and you should never be adding additional JavaScript unless you need it. And so like I think like the dynamic imports are great because it's kind of like just in time JavaScript, not JIT, but like just JIJ. I don't know. That sounds weird, but so the dynamic imports are great because the only bloat you'll have in that is you'll have like a larger switch case, which I don't think is that big a deal. Um, the other thing, excuse me, the other thing is all those dynamic imports, they will become bundles, but they're going to be separate bundles. They'll be like these little chunks that Webpack or SWC just knows to pull in when like that dynamic import happens. So, all right, cool, cool, cool. So, anyways, uh, John, if you're still here, this is basically how I'd pull in like new widgets. So not too big a lift. Assuming we have the widgets, the bigger lift would be building the widget if it doesn't exist. But and yeah, you see here, yeah, call, bum, 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 yeah, cool. So, not that the rest of the stream will be boring, but I want to do some of my to-dos. So that's like adding some logging and stuff. So I might do some refactoring after, but this is the one I want to focus on. I want to add the Sentry logging, this part here. So let's go ahead and do that. I just got to go into feature flags. I just try to remember. Okay, this is what I want. Sentry capture. Just gonna create a new file for a sec. Just make sure I get the right import. Cool. This is what I need. And I'm also gonna undo those changes I made because we are not gonna be sending this particular thing to production. Okay, cool. So that's it all working. And so now let's look for those to-dos. Okay, fix this with a full working implementation. Yeah, that I know. That I'll sort out. Okay, yeah, so here, this could be an actual error if, yeah, no, this I do want to log though. So let's pop this in. We're gonna do the Sentry capture. Where did I just do that? Okay, yeah, here. So we want to capture that exception and let's get the import. Cool. And let's do Sentry. Where'd you go? All right. Cool. Capture exception and let's get some real estate back here. Boom. Okay. Actually gonna move over left. It's easier for me. Okay. So exception, new error, unable to render dynamic widget in StarSearch. And we'll say the cause was this widget definition. Ba, ba, ba. Okay, that should be good enough. And let's see. Yeah, so we don't render that. That's good. Okay, so that's one of them. Um, and let's find a to-do, log to Sentry, same thing again. Actually, okay. Failed to parse. Okay, so basically what's happening here, so this is when we know it's a function call, which means it's going to be, yeah, you can ask, sorry, yeah, go ahead, Psycho, SYK, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go for it. Sorry, just saw your question. Anyways, I'll check in a sec once you drop your question. Um, okay, so only log error if it's a function call, as we expect the content to be JSON. So failed to parse JSON for StarSearch widget. And then we'll say cause, and then I'm gonna just um, let's see, cause would be error, sure. Let's see here. Let's change this to this. I don't know C++ really, Psycho. I did some in university my first year, and then they promptly switched us to Java. Um, you have a big problem with a file. What's the problem exactly? Not that I might have an answer, but just throw it out to the internet here and let's see. Um, okay, so Sentry, we're gonna capture exception, failed to parse JSON for star search widget and cause unknown. I'm thinking I could just pass the, because the error that's going to happen here is just it can't parse the JSON. So that's kind of obvious, but I think let's do JSON payload, and then let's pop it in here maybe. Result, which is the JSON, and that should be good. Okay, cool. Let's find, do I have other to do? Okay, those are only two. So let's add those. So git add, chore, added, Sentry, logging, when there is dynamic widget errors. Cool. Let's see here. Okay. That's good. So the Sentry logging, the to-dos are there. Okay. Add some more comments. Yeah, that I'll do after. Um, just gonna switch to my face for a second here. I just need to check an email real quick. Uh, Not that I have anything super secret, but don't particularly need to show stuff if I don't need to. Principle of least privilege, represent. Um, okay. Let me check Slack here. Yeah, yeah. John's just we were talking about the markdown. It seems to be okay. Cool. All right, that's all good. Let's get back to it. Back to the chat. So, curious what your big problem with your file is, Psycho. Is it a large file? You probably need to read it through a buffer instead of just pulling it all in one shot. Maybe I don't know if that's the issue you're having. Okay. Okay, so sort out markdown. I'm gonna look at that with John after. I might do a bit of refactoring. Okay, fix. Oh yeah, so there's this to do. Um, so the type here, it's complaining. So here, let me hover over it. JSX element type component does not have any constructor call or signature. Um, JSX element component is, yeah. I think that's because it could be undefined. So I think if we do this, component, yeah. If we do this, that should get rid of, yeah. Oh, okay, that's all it is. Okay. So let's see here. Render start. We know it's gonna exist because we've hit it. We're already at this point. But let's see here. Let's do component registry. Okay. Uh, has if not component registry has widget definition name. Throw. Okay. Now the interesting thing is it still doesn't. See, this should be able to say like this shouldn't be undefined at this point because we've made the check here. But not found. If component registry has, yeah, so if it doesn't have it, we throw another error. Otherwise, this is supposed to exist. This is, I don't do this often, but like we've already done the registry check. So like I'm inclined to just say like, I know what I'm doing. It's there. The other thing we could do is actually, we can just do this component or null, and that'll work as well. Um, and if it's null, it's gonna return nothing. Like we should never end up in here like this because like where the render StarSearch component is. Oh, it is true. It might not. Well, you see the check here is if it's of type, if it's not of type string and it's not in the registry, we're not even rendering. So like we're literally never gonna end up in a situation in here where widget definition dot name is not in the component registry. So this is like we can do this extra check, or we can just force it. I'm inclined to force it because we can do this check here, but then I guess let's see here. We can component registry. Let's see here. Const. Uh, let's see here. Component to render equals that, and then return component to render. But then, you know, like, then I could do this if component to render equals null, I'd say throw. Okay, unable to render dynamic widget in search. Yeah, that could work too. Yeah. Or we could just say throw. Yeah, we could say throw. Yeah, that is the valid error. And if that's the case, then again, we should never end up in this situation, but never say never, I guess. So that fixes that TS error. And again, like I can't, we have to put this uppercase so it can render as a JSX. Sorry, so it can, the JSX can be converted to a React create element properly. So if we do that, yeah, I think I'm gonna put the error here, and I don't want to do it. StarSearch. Yeah, so let's go find this. Failed to parse. Yeah. Okay. No, it's not that it failed to parse it. This is the JSON payload. So let's go here again. JSON payload. That's good. And this should be widget definition dot. Actually, this is gonna have to be stringified. So JSON dot there. Okay. So and then yeah. So let's see here. So the component to render, and this might actually throw because if there is no widget definition, oh no, the widget definition should exist. So that's we'd throw that before if that didn't work. Okay, so yeah, if component to render is null, we're gonna throw, and then we should, yeah, and we return null. That's okay. Okay, so throw new error comes in here. We capture the exception. We say unable to render dynamic widget in StarSearch. This was the JSON, or say widget definition. Is that, and the cause of the error is either it didn't render properly or we hit this, the component to render was null. So that's good. I think that's good. So I'm gonna G reset GA G chore. Just gonna update that one. G push force. I have an alias which is PF for push force, but it's actually push force with least, so it doesn't just go nuclear. Okay, so we fixed that. Fixed type for component. That's all done. Can add some comments. Okay. I think we're good there. Okay. Just gotta check Slack again too. Let's see here. Check that a little later. Remind me about that in an hour. Just gotta check one other thing. Okay, that's just a reminder. What's going on here? Okay, cool. We get. All right, so I'm wondering if there's any refactoring I can do here. Add some comments in the code to explain the dynamic widget loading. Yeah, let's see if it's valuable to do that or not. It might not be, but not to say that comments aren't good. That's not what I mean. What I mean is sometimes code is self-explanatory, but let's see here. Okay, that's good. Returning null. So returning null, so because widgets enhance the experience but are not critical to the functionality. Okay, that's good. Okay, let's look for this. And so I think one thing I want to do is I don't want to render the chat box if it does fail. So I'm thinking of doing this instead. Let's say dynamic widget, and let's come up here and I'm gonna do const. Yeah. Okay, it's got me. So, all right. So we're returning null here, meaning we're not going to render a chat box when that case is the case, which is like either it's not a string and it's not in the registry. But the other thing is message.content. Oh yeah, okay. I'm gonna need to do that over here. Because basically if it fails, I just don't want to render the thing. But I'm also gonna have to do this. Say let and let's see here, dynamic widget. Yeah, you know what? I could do that maybe, but that's not what I want to do exactly. Um, let's say if, yeah, exactly this dynamic widget. Whoops. Okay, now if dynamic widget equals null, I want to return null. Now, so this could be cleaned up maybe, but essentially, so like whenever we don't find a dynamic widget in the component registry, we return null, so we don't even show the chat box. Um, the other case is we have a dynamic widget, um, not equals string. Yeah, I could probably, yeah. So basically, when it's a dynamic widget again, we're gonna render it, and if we come back to this, like we were saying, if there's an error and we're returning null because this only enhances the experience, it's not critical. Well, it could become critical at some point, but um, so basically, what would happen before I just made this change was you'd end up with an empty chat box. I don't want to render the chat box at all if there's a dynamic widget that didn't load properly. So that's what this check is. So if it's not a string, so meaning it's a dynamic widget, we render it. If the dynamic widget fails, we end up with null. So if it's null, return null for the chat box so we just don't even get one. Um, so I think that's a bit better. Um, the check down here, that's good. I think we just need to do a bit of cleanup here. So let's move this up here. And let's do this. Okay. Yeah, dynamic widget. If not equal to string, this could be dangerous what I'm doing, but okay. And dynamic widget equals null. Yeah, see, this is not good what I'm doing here. It's telling me don't do that. This could essentially be this. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just trying to save some. So essentially, what's happening here is we have the dynamic widget. It's null. It's undefined to begin with. Um, if it's not message content of type string, we know it's a dynamic component. Um, okay, it's not in the registry, or this should be or. So this should be like this. So basically, if it's a dynamic widget, but it's not in the registry, or it is, but the dynamic widget is equal to null, return null. Otherwise, come down here and then render the dynamic widget. Okay, violated sign. You're saying, I'm guessing this can only look at public repos on OpenSauced for the workspace repo tracking. I messed around with it now. Yeah, so this is all publicly available information only. Um, can't say for sure, but maybe like, like for an enterprise customer in the future, or just a paid customer in general, maybe that could be something where we crawl private repos or like have information about that. But the thing is, the again, I'm not saying this is something we're doing, so like that's my disclaimer. But if we were to do something like that, we would need to get permission from the user or the org to say, let me see your private stuff. So but I think that could be I think that could potentially be difficult. Oh, I'm just spitballing here, but like, say we allowed somebody's private repos to be crawled. When other people ask for it, we'd have to make sure that it's actually not gonna try and look up private repos of the person that said search my private repos. That should only be in the context of when they're using it. I don't know all the all the nitty gritty around that, but so let's see here. Okay, so I want to just test my refactor here. And let's come back here. Okay, that's compiled. Okay, cool. So let's start this off, and then let's do um, what is the lottery factor? Yeah, it's not to say that it's not doable, but I think there has to be some major stuff around the privacy and making sure, like being like absolutely sure, because last thing you want is somebody's IP leaking. So I think it's an interesting thing, but yeah, I don't know if that's on in the cards for us or not, but who knows? Never say never. But I think it could be doable. It's just a question of, yeah, making sure nothing leaks and also being allowed to get access to private repos too. That's another thing. Okay, so let's say, what is the lottery factor of, let's try and think of forum/forum, my old work. Okay, so yeah, it's got a pretty high lotto factor. So Ben is one of the co-founders. He's the one that created the practical dev, which the forum code base is uh, dev.2 is one of the forum instances. Maestro Mac is one of my old coworkers too. The other people are, I think this person is new on the team. I don't know them, but oh, anyways, so that renders properly, and so like, let's just throw a kink into here. So close others, don't save. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the same question again, and I want it to error out now. So let's just clear and let's see here. Let's look for render StarSearch component. Okay, so let's go to definition, and I'm gonna purposely throw an error. So I'm just gonna say if component to render, if it actually exists, we're gonna throw, which is not what we would really want to do, but this is just a test that I get. When I run this now, I should not get a lottery factor or a chart or a chat box for it. Like, I shouldn't end up with a blank chat box. I should only see a chat box that has text in it. And that's what should happen. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that is what happened. Okay. And we can validate that too. So like, if we open up the dev tools and let's go to sources and render star. Okay. So yeah, so let's come here, and I'm expecting it to throw there, and I'm expecting it to throw log to Sentry. So let's do this again. What is the lottery factor of forum? Boom. Okay, so through the error, we ended up here, captures it. It's going to return null as expected. And then in here, we're returning null, so we never get the chat box. So that's exactly what I want. So let me undo the logic though to make sure it's still checking for null. Okay, cool. And we can hide that now. And we good. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with that small refactor. And let's see, what did B? Okay, yeah, so we added that note there. And what else did we add? Okay, yeah, so the dynamic widget, and it's returning null if not. And then down here, yeah, exactly. And this part, I guess we could, in theory, we could refactor that more, I guess. So like if we come back to this, render StarSearch component. Okay. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the I do think the private repo stuff is interesting. It's just yeah, just got to be super tight on making sure that that definitely works 100%. Okay, so I think what we're gonna do here, if not string, else uh, dynamic widget equals just temporarily, and I'm just gonna say markdown message markdown, and then really all we're rendering down here is that. And did that close properly? Yeah, okay. Let's come back up here, and it's not going to be called dynamic widget because that doesn't make sense. Okay, message dot content type string widget. Okay, yeah, it's because if type and okay, yeah, if it's because of this check, this would basically need to be this like that, and then we'd have to have another if. Did I do that right? Um, Hold on a sec. If not string, let's undo that again. Yeah, so up here, this should be that. That's correct. It's not liking this because it can't tell because the TypeScript guard, which is basically just a conditional here, it doesn't know that this is string here. It thinks it might be a widget definition or it could be other things. So message content. So it's my check here. So like if I get rid of this temporarily, that'll be okay. And that makes sense. So if it's not, and we can actually reverse it, but if type of message content equals string, let's move that up. Let's move this down. Okay. And then in here, if there, and then get rid of this. I think that'd work. So essentially, okay, maybe it didn't work. Let's try this again. What is the lotto factor for forum/forum? Okay, no, it's working. Cool. That's good. Yeah, no worries, man. Yeah, no, appreciate you always hanging, violated sign. Thanks for hanging and have fun in the meeting. If fun in a meeting, not that all meetings are fun, but sometimes they can be. Okay, yeah. So basically this refactor, and I'm just trying to avoid doing another check down here where we can just say render the dynamic. Just it's not called dynamic widget. We'll just say um, we'll just call it content. That should be, yeah, that's good. So here, if it's of type string, the content is marked down. Otherwise, we know it's a dynamic widget, and you know what we can do here, just to make this a little cleaner now, we're just gonna say this uh, content equals that, and then I'm just gonna say this just makes the check look a lot nicer, and I think that's good. All right. Okay, so then this just cleans it up a little bit. There's that. There's that. Like in both cases, there will always be content, but it is possible that this is null, like we said, and in the case it is, or it's not in the registry. Oh, you know what? My logic's not correct here, because if this is not in the registry, then this is going to fail. So I'm actually making my life harder that way. So you know what? I was basically trying to get rid of two null checks. Let's see here. Let's see if yeah. So we can do this. I gotta put it up here. If it's that, we return null. Whoops. Yeah, because we've got to return null first. Otherwise, um, content is that, and then if content equals null, return null. And this doesn't have to be 3 checks. This can just be not content. Okay, so maybe cleaner, I don't know. Just wondering. If it's string, the content's markdown. Otherwise, not in the registry, return null. Um, if it is in the registry, we render, and then if for some reason that fails to render, we return null, so no chat box. I think that's okay. We'll wait for the review to see what people say, I guess. Clear chat history. Okay. Just make sure that my refactor works. Boom. Interesting how it's generating weirder markup like Ben Halperpern. Anyways. Okay, so I think that refactor works. That's good. GA. And let's just look at the difference. Yeah, so returning null because widgets enhance experience but are not critical to the functionality. Boom, let's come down here. Okay, so yeah, if it's content there and then down here, we're just saying content. Cool. I think that's good. All right, so let's do git chore small refactor. Cool, cool. Okay, let's see what else. Add some, yeah. Okay, cool. I think it's good enough time to call it. Thanks everybody hanging out, and we'll see you in the next one. Tomorrow's Friday. I might do a bit of streaming. We'll see. Depends. Um, and I'm not gonna be live streaming next week on my channel. There's no guest next week, and I won't be streaming work probably, because we've got our launch next week, and I'm gonna be live streaming with my coworker Becca all week, so might be a little out of gas to do my own stream. So, anyways, take care, peeps.